Donald Trump is all about talk first, act later. We will see what happens. We will mobilize our people, my administration, to follow as to what I say. But when I say, I don't use my brain. It is just something that comes out of my mouth, and everybody then has to follow everything I say, even if that doesn't make any sense. Let's take a listen at what Douglas Macgregor is saying here.
To an announcement of this magnitude that the United States would own the Gaza Strip.
Well, Judge, this is
Where to
breathtaking. Really is breathtaking. He says that everyone he's talked to is wildly enthusiastic. Well, I'm sure, his Jewish friends in New York City and Las Vegas and elsewhere are enthusiastic. No doubt Mr. Netanyahu, grinning like a Cheshire cat, is delighted with the prospect of having the United States permanently embroil itself in the tar pit of the Middle East on behalf of Israel.
Netanyahu wanted Donald Trump to get involved with Iran. That's what he wanted. He wanted a war with Iran. He got even a better deal now, which is Gaza. Because guess what? Once U.S. gets stuck in Gaza, and they will, if they go there, then they will have no other choice but to face Iran ultimately. Because Iran is not going to let U.S. troops be in Gaza and enjoy the Riviera, the beachside front. No, they are going to come under attack from Iran, not necessarily maybe in Gaza itself, but somewhere else, in Iraq. They have bases. Elsewhere, they have bases. So Iran is going to come after them. But anyways, the ultimate result of all of this could be potentially of the fulfillment of Netanyahu's desire, which is Iran getting hit by U.S. And Donald Trump is going down to that path. Even if he wants to avoid a war with Iran, if he does send troops into Gaza, guess what? That's exactly what will happen. A war between U.S., Israel, and Iran.
We need to point out to the listeners and the viewers that this has been walked back. If you go towards the end of the day yesterday when all of this developed, this new woman who is the spokesman in the White House, Mrs. Leavitt, I think is her name.
Yes.
She made it very clear that this was not something that was going to go forward. She was, very politic about it and very diplomatic, but this is dead in the water. The other thing is that if he had been serious about this and his staff was doing their jobs, if the NSA was advising him, and for that matter, the Secretary of State, they would have all weighed in and said, Mr. President, let us talk to the people in the region. What do the people in Cairo think? What do the people in Riyadh think? What do the people in Ankara think? I mean, all of these people have a stake in what happens in Palestine.
Again, as I said, Donald Trump will talk first and then he will think later because his brain is inverted. That's how it works, and it works in reverse because normal people, they analyze, they assess situation, they think first, right? They do some brainstorming. But for Donald Trump, it's just say something and then we'll do the brain work. He doesn't have a functional brain. I don't think so. But anyways, his comment, Douglas Macgregor's comment that U.S. administration, those people, Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he said they should have told Donald Trump that, hey, Mr. President, let us do the work. Let us find out what the people of Cairo think, or people from Gaza think, or people from Lebanon think, or from Jordan think. Well, guess what? Donald Trump knows all of this already because he has a special brain that figures it all out. And that brain, again, non-functional brain, obviously. But this is already too late. These people working under Donald Trump will have absolutely, and still, they have absolutely no clue what Trump is doing and saying. I mean, Marco Rubio himself, he said when they were running for election in 2016, Marco Rubio said to Donald Trump's plan of Gaza, he said this is a real estate plan and this is not real estate. Gaza is not a real estate. Marco Rubio telling Donald Trump at that time, how many years ago? Almost 10 years ago. So do you think Marco Rubio have any clue what Donald Trump is saying? No, of course not. He's thinking, oh, my boss is a lunatic.
Sort of say, well, everybody I've talked to thinks it's a great idea, and he finds out overnight, immediately, everyone else says, absolutely not. It's horrific. He's now not just complicit, he seems to be trying to extend this wholesale ethnic cleansing operation, mass deportation or mass murder operation in Gaza as far as possible. And then he tells everyone, well, once we've done this and we've rebuilt this place and it looks like Las Vegas on the Med, anybody can come and live there. Well, that's like saying we're gonna roll over everything on the coast of Florida, and Tampa and St. Petersburg are going to rebuild everything, and then anybody who wants to live there can come and live there. Well, this is America. In the case of the Palestinian Arabs, Gaza is their home. That's their country. How can you dispose of all of this without any consideration whatsoever for any feelings or interests? So I think this has harmed us. I think it's harmed him. I think it's made us look ridiculous. It makes us look as though we are the willing puppet of this small state called Israel in the Middle East. That's unfortunate. The previous presidents have always been very careful to set limits, establish these things that the diplomats like to call guardrails these days.
Right.
They did that from Eisenhower on. All of a sudden.
No, because this guy, he doesn't sleep at all. I mean, have you seen his face, how roughed up it is? I mean, every time I see him standing right next to another head of state, I see him, Donald Trump, sleep deprived. He's sleep deprived. He doesn't know how to sleep. He has to take medication. I'm pretty sure about this. Because his face, look at his face. This is not a face of someone who is fresh, who has enough sleep. He doesn't have a working, healthy body. He is thinking all the time. Even in the middle of the night, he wakes up and he thinks about, okay, so I will say this about Gaza tomorrow morning, and then he sleeps again for a few hours, and then he wakes up, okay, so this is what I'll do with Putin. I'm gonna call him tomorrow, and then he sleeps. He doesn't sleep properly, man. He's always thinking, because he's so overwhelmed with the power that he has now, which is pretty much controlling every country in the world in some way, shape, or form. Even a lot of people, they don't care, but this guy has so much power, he doesn't know what to do with this power. He doesn't get enough sleep. Let me know if you agree with this in the comment section below.
They're gone, and we're doing the bidding of Mr. Netanyahu and his agents and backers in the United States and around the world. It's not a good picture for the United States. It's bad for President Trump.
At one point, he actually wrote on Truth Social. Now, this was Tuesday night. This was about 2 or 3 hours after the announcement, an abbreviated version of which we all just viewed, and before the backlash. Quote, Israel will turn over Gaza to the United States. Now, I don't know if he actually personally writes these things that come out under his name in the middle of the night under Truth Social. Let's assume he does.
That's exactly what I just said. In the middle of the night, Judge, he heard me. Donald Trump, he doesn't sleep when he doesn't say anything. He tweets on his Truth Social. This guy is absolutely losing it.
How could he possibly be so ignorant as to think that Israel could turn over Gaza to the United States? Israel has failed miserably in its efforts in Gaza to rid it of Hamas, to return the hostages and whatever else they have, to mow the lawn, whatever language Netanyahu and his buddies like to use.
Well, remember when Begin and Sadat negotiated the end of the 73 war, Begin tried to turn Gaza over to Egypt. And Sadat said, absolutely not. They're not part of Egypt. They are not Egyptians. And he wanted desperately to offload his quote unquote Gaza problem onto Egypt. Now, the Egyptians have cooperated to limit the violence and the capabilities of Hamas and others because they have a mutual interest, or at least had, in suppressing Islamism. But what the Israelis have done now is so horrific that I doubt he's going to get any form of cooperation in the future whatsoever out of Egypt.
Okay, so two things. Number one is it was Ronald Reagan and Hosni Mubarak, according to one report. It is not Anwar Sadat. The president of Egypt at that time was Hosni Mubarak. Anyways, the point here is this. The people of Gaza and the fighters especially, they believe in Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, so if they're being expelled and displaced and sent to Egypt, what they will do in Egypt? You guessed it right. They are going to be inviting people to their own ideology. Once they have the ideology established, then guess what will happen next? The Sisi government will be gone, because Sisi government is anti-Muslim Brotherhood, and therefore for Sisi, for his own survival, guys, he would never want the people of Gaza with that ideology to come to his country and start a revolt and throw him out. That's not what he would want in a sound mind. Sisi knows it. Jordanian King Abdullah, he knows it. That these people, if they come to my country, it is not that I will have problem feeding them. They will not have that problem, because US will give them more money to Egypt and Jordan, and they'll be more than happy to do that, Donald Trump especially. But the problem is not the daily necessities, food, oil, fuel, all of this. The problem is, the real problem for these countries, for these dictators, is that these people are going to turn against them in their own country, and they will take their own people with them and tell them, hey, we need to get rid of this government because they kicked us out from Gaza and your king did nothing to us. And Jordanian people, they're already boiling. They're already, Egyptian people, they're already boiling over their government's decision and their action against the people of Gaza during this genocide. Therefore, he doesn't want to, or nobody wants to make that even worse, especially the dictators. Guys, we're living in a time when we're seeing president and head of states, they're losing their mind, they're unhinged, and this is something very, very dangerous.